Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today's video I thought I'd show you guys how to build yourself your light kit for your Litehawk Blast or your L202 or l959. Okay, now if you have a Brood or an l969, okay, and those other monster trucks that are, you know, the same basic idea, they have their same receiver, okay? When you're talking about Litehawk and Wltoys machines. We've gone through all those models in other videos, so but those you'll have to do other modifications to hook some headlights in. But these ones here, the buggies, they have the cases already from the factory that have the light boxes, and they're a 5mm LED that's required, and the holes are drilled such that it's a nice tight pressure fit in with the LED, so you don't have to glue these in place, because once they're in, they're not going to come out too easily. But you want to hook up lights, I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, you're going to need these micro connectors. Okay, now, it doesn't matter what color the wires are on each side, because believe me, positive is not positive, negative is not negative very often. Different manufacturers, they reverse the polarities just to mess you up. So you really got to be careful and check the polarity coming off of each wire to know which one is actually positive, which one is negative. Okay. Your LEDs that you're going to use, your longer lead is always going to be your positive, okay? Now, I'm going to leave these leads at a longer length because I've got to reach from this side to this side, and these are shorter wires. But even from this side, I may clip the one side shorter, but I don't think I'm going to clip the other one because I'm not sure. Well, let me see. Well, it'd be a tight fit. I'm going to have to leave some length on this one. But the other one will cut down shorter. But first you need to know what your polarities are. So, grab your buggy, put your battery in, turn your buggy on, make sure you bind your buggy, okay? And next thing you're going to do is take off the one side of the rail here for the cage. So we're going to need a screwdriver for that, which was actually, oh, there it is. Okay, so there's one screw here. Just unscrew it, like so. And this is going to allow you some access to the side ports here. Now, some of you may have a little bit of glue in here, some of you may not. This one doesn't really have any in there. Okay, so we got two clear ports here, accessible. So all we need to do is actually use one of these wires, because if you look at the connections on them side by side, they're both the identical wire. So the way they plug in, whichever one you set up for your positive and negative on this wire will be the same for this one. But if you got different colored wires, you're going to have to test each port. But you only need to make sure you got the polarities right on the one port, so we're only going to use the one port for our access on this. Now, you're also going to need probably a pair of pliers in order to seat that in there to clip it in place, because it is a little bit of a tight spot to work in. Now, before plugging this in, make sure you strip some of the casing off your wires, because you're going to need to tin these wires. So you may want to even go ahead and tin your wires first. But you really don't need to. So there's a little groove here. Look at where the pins are closest to, which is towards the back of the buggy. These pinholes here are the ones that are going to go towards the back of the buggy. Which means, in the case of this connector, my negative is going to the right side. Okay, so that's plugged in. Now, you're going to need a multimeter as well. Doesn't matter if it's a digital multimeter or if it's a manual one. I like digital. But all you're testing here is for proper polarity. So you want to make sure that your needle goes up, or in this case your meter reads the polarity to the positive side. So if it is reversed, you'll see a negative mark. So let's, just for giggles, let's do red to red and black to black and see what happens. Okay, so in this case we've got a negative side. Okay, so negative is actually going to be the positive on the wire, so my black is actually going to be positive. It's not going to be negative. So now that you know which is which, just take yourself a pen and a piece of paper. So whatever color your wire happens to be, that you found out was positive, that's what you're going to mark. So in this case, we're going to do black is positive, red is negative. So you just write it down somewhere. You're also going to want to have some heat shrink tubing for this as well. So now you've got your polarities figured out. Now you can disconnect the wire out of your vehicle, turn your vehicle off so you don't waste your battery for nothing. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to tin the wires. It's very important to make sure you tin your wires properly with proper soldering paste. This way the solder sticks quickly and properly. Now you're also going to do the same process on your LEDs. And I like to have a Q-tip usually for doing that with. A set of these helping hands is a real big benefit. Now we are going to leave one long and one short, and we're going to put the left side in first anyhow. So this one I decided I can shorten that because I got a long enough wire. So what I want to make sure is that my negative is shorter. So clip it there. And you want to leave your positive slightly longer. This way you don't get mixed up. Now, you can pre-test this to make sure you did your job right ahead of time. If you have a 3.7 volt battery around with a JST connector, these are real handy. So if you're doing modding, you should actually have one of these. Positive to positive, negative to negative. And that's exactly what we have. We got power, it lights up, so we're good to go. So, in the case of the LED, you don't have to pre-tin. Just make sure you got some soldering paste on there for when you do go to solder it. And also, you're going to need some heat shrink tubing as well for your contacts. You want to make this look as professional as possible, right? So make sure you have the diameter of heat shrink tubing that's going to shrink enough. And fit properly, and this piece does. So we have a green piece for there. I got a little burr on the end of this one, so I'm just going to clip a little bit off of there, just like that. And we'll find another piece of heat shrink tubing in our collection that'll fit. That's going to fit good. And so now all we got to do is solder it together. Now I'm using red and green, but it really makes no difference what color your tubing is. You just got to remember that our black wire in this case ended up being our positive. Now when I hook up something like this, I like to lay it down on the lead as best as I can, because I want to get the maximum amount of wire to metal lead. You gotta have a pretty steady hand for this too. That helps a lot. Now our red is going to go over here. Like that. So we've got one done. So now what you want to do is let that cool off for a second and then slip your tubing up and over. Just like that. Okay? And then if you've got a lighter, preferably, because my torch has got a little bit too much power in it, just shrink that tubing so it gets a really good grip going. And let that sit and cool for a minute. And we'll go on to our next one. Now there's no need for us to test things twice because we already know that these are both the same color coding to begin with and same direction on the connector. Now the question is, where do you get these connectors? Well, there's a lot of different places you can get connectors. Wherever you can get hobby parts, you can get these connectors. A lot of my connectors, I just strip them out of helicopters and stuff that are busted, that aren't worth fixing, and that gets me access to the parts I need for doing stuff like this for myself or even for somebody else. Now this one, we decided we're going to leave the leads longer, so we'll do that. And just a little bit of paste on each one of these leads. That's all we need. And these are already tinned and ready to go. So we got to remember the negative goes on to the positive. Oh, what did we forget? We got to put on our heat shrink tube first. Actually starting to run low on heat shrink tubing. Okay, that looks like it'll fit. Oh, I need a little bit longer. So there's a red one. Yep, that'll work good. And we also, well, I guess we're going to be going red on both sides. Do is I'll make sure I got two pieces that are more than long enough. There we go. Oh, that's a just fit, as they call it. Be careful when we heat this one up. And that one's going to be a little on the long side. Same with this. Give it a little bit of extra play. Now if you don't have these helping hands things, it can be a little bit of fun, but these helping hands don't cost that much. The other thing too is you're working with an LED, which is another reason why you got to be very careful about heat and timing, which also makes the reason why you also must use soldering paste. Because when you're working with any kind of circuits like these, they can't take a lot of heat at them. or they'll pop. That looks good. Just let that cool for just a second. Move this out of the way. We're all done with our paste. Solder. Okay. And move those up. Grab our lighter. Let that sit for a minute. Finish cleaning up our mess here. Okay, so let's grab our pieces. This is the one with the shorter lead, so it goes on this side. So let's plug it in and then maneuver our wire over. Now this you're going to use a flat blade screwdriver on and just tap it into place there. And then you can route your wire in behind and plug in your light. Voila, that's one. Now, as long as there's no malfunction going on in your board, everything should work out just perfect for you. Okay, now this is where we have the shorter wire, so we got to make a bend and push in place. Everything looks connected. Let's turn on the power, and we've got lights. Nice. Oh. That's how you do her, guys. That's how you make your light kit and install her in. So now we can put our body shell back on. Oh, no, we gotta put our cage back down first. My bad. Kind of wondered why it wasn't going on so well. Even I can forget stuff. And actually, it's kind of good that that happens, because some guys will just keep putting it on and not even think, oh, I got to put the roll bar piece back in. So there we go. So now we've got all that put back together properly. Oh, look at that. Body goes right on nice. Okay, so we'll grab our pins. It's on. There you go. Rock and roll, guys. If you have any other questions, comments, feel free to leave them. I'll always do my best as always to answer them. And we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.